Hi there, this is Rustic David. I make rustic and recycled wood furniture. On my channel, I'm going to show you how you can do it too. In the last video, I showed you how to make this little cabinet out of pallet wood or whatever boards you happen to have around. We started with narrow boards, we joined them together with some battens and then joined it all together in a box. You can watch that video to see how we did that. And now what we're going to do in this video, we're going to add a face frame all the way around to tidy it up and hide these and give us somewhere to put a door if we want a door, if you don't want a door. Okay, we also need to give the cabinet a back. So let's start with the back. I've got another pile of pallet wood here. It's not cut to size and it's not sanded or any of that stuff. But what I need to do now is see how long do I need for the back, like this. How many pieces do I need here? Now you can see these are all cut to all various lengths because instead of pulling the pallet apart and ripping out all the nails, I just cut it off. You took a saw and cut it off. Now you can see it's a bit bigger, so I'm going to have to cut this one. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to cut these guys to length. How long do they need to be? I can go the easy route and just mark a line with a pencil like this, or I can measure my box. It's 40 centimeters. If the ends aren't straight, straighten up an end, measure 40 centimeters and cut it. You can see how to cut straight in another video of mine on how to cut straight with a handsaw. If you've got a chop saw or something, great, do it with that. So, we're going to need a square. I'll just check out this end here. Well, this end's square actually, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Mark here 40 centimeters. I spoke about the bench hook in the last video also. I'm going to use the bench hook just to make it comfortable. There we are. That's the right size for the back. So now I need to cut another. This one's considerably thinner, so I'll put those thin ones to one side a minute. I'll take something about the same thickness. There we go. Like this. Great. So now I'm going to cut all these to 40 centimeters too. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is nail on all of these and then add on this one. Now, if you don't like that it's not symmetrical, so start over here, nail these on, measure the gap and then rip this piece to the side. That's what I'm going to do because I like symmetry. Even though it's rough old pallet wood, it looks better. Okay, also it's probably about time that this box had a sand, because once I put the back on, it's going to be very difficult to sand inside. So it's a good time to sand it. I'm not going to waste time now with a piece of sandpaper sanding away like this. I'm going to go and use a machine. Okay, like I said, I'm going to use a machine. Don't be discouraged if you don't have a sanding machine. You can do this by hand. You're not trying to make a living out of this. You should be doing it for fun, I hope. And maybe later you will make a living out of it. But if you sand by hand, This is a fine paper. It's written on the back here a number, 120. This means it's like medium. For every square centimeter, sorry inch guys, there's 120 grains of sand or whatever, this aluminium oxide or something, for every square centimeter. So that's 120 grains for a square centimeter. If I take something rougher, well, this is really rough. I don't know if you can see, this is really rough stuff. This is written on the back 60. So there's 60 grains. So it's twice as rough as the 120. So I'm actually going to start with 60, which is really rough. And if you're doing it by hand, do the same. Start with a rough paper like this. And you get a really nice finish actually by hand. I do like the finish. I don't have all the time that I would like to play around with the wood. So I'm going to use the machinery. But you'd start with 60 and work your way up to higher numbers. 60, 80, 120, 220, and then it becomes really fine. And each progressive paper removes the scratches from the paper before it. So you should try and use as many grits as you can on your way up. But again, if you've only got 60, so can you see that? On there, it's really quite smooth and nice already. So it's not take that much time, okay? So now I need to go up to 80. This is 80. 120. So that's it. Done with the sanding, inside and out of the box. I sanded the pieces for the back on both sides, and now I want to connect them. Now you can probably see that these boards are a little bit cupped. This is called cupped, and they're bent in this direction. Okay, so if I want to nail them onto a flat surface, if I put them this way up, they rock. And when I put the nail in, it picks up this corner. I'll pop it in there, it'll pick up. It might split down the middle if I hammer them down too hard. So alternatively, I can just put them this way up, and then it touches on these two corners, and it doesn't rock around, and it's nice and stable. So that's the way I'm going to put it together. This side's quite attractive. I also broke the corners a little bit, so that when they touch like this inside the back, it'll look a bit nicer and not just all those splinters and broken bits of wood. Okay, so now I'm going to attach the back like I said. 2 over here, 2 over here, and then I'll cut this piece to size and drop them in the middle. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's not going to hold water, but it's starting to look nice. Now we need the face frame. And the face frame is very similar to the piece I just cut now. I need to rip a piece this length and this wide. So it's just going to hide these and give a nice frame around the box. I like to do these two the length of the box and then cut these ones a bit shorter so it will go in between. And this I'm just going to nail it on as well. Okay, so let's measure. What have we got here? 4 centimeters, 4.1, 4.5, 4 centimeters. That's the one we chopped with the chisel, so it came out a bit wider. So it's 4.5. So I'm going to make the frame of the box 4.5 centimeters wide. Okay? Now you can just use your hand saw to rip them. I'm going to go and do it on my table saw. So now all the face frame is cut to size and sanded. First of all, I cut these guys and I put them on the edge like this, and I measured what was the gap between them. You can also do it like this and measure what goes here, 24.5 centimeters. Okay, could always check the other side, it should be the same, yeah, 24.5. So now I place these guys here, place this here, and that should be a nice fit. There we are, lovely. And this one's going to go here. I chose to put the sawn edge and sanded edge inside the box. Then it was just easier for me to fit the door and have this rough edge inside the box. Also, this rough edge suits the outside of the box nicely. Okay? So now I'm going to nail these on. So I'm going to start off with one of these on the side, and I'm going to try and be some kind of symmetry with my nails, because you're going to see them, so they won't look too sloppy. There we have it. Now we've got our nice little face frame on the box. The next thing we're going to need is a door. Maybe you don't want a door. Perhaps you like a little cabinet like this to hang on the wall. Maybe you want to add another shelf in. So you could add another you could add another batten here and lay a couple of boards on it. You don't even need to nail them on. You have a little shelf in there. So as you see, from some old pallet wood, a hammer and some nails and a saw, we're starting to get quite an attractive little box. So now we need to think about the door. And the door, I would like it to close inside of the frame, like this. Now, it depends on what hinges you've got. Short scrap here from the floor from earlier. And I want the door to fit inside like this, so it'll be flush with the cabinet. You could put it on, but I don't really like that. You can do what you like. So I'd like to put it inside here, and then it'll open like this, the door. Okay, so we should see what hinges have we got. Now I dug around in my cupboard earlier, and I found a gate hinge, a strap hinge, whatever it might happen to be called, and I thought that's quite appropriate for this type of a cabinet, and it's very easy to put on as well. It's not like other types of hinges where you need to cut a mortise, you need to cut a little slot here for it to go inside, or this is really easy. You can just mount it on the outside, and I think it looks quite rustic. But the trouble was, I only found one, and then the other one I found was bent. I bent it for a project where the door was made out of planks connected together like this. Can you see that? And then it went over the batten that was connecting the planks together for the door and opened like this. But I don't think that's necessary here, so I'm going to take that screw out and straighten it up, and sometime in the future I'll paint this one black to match this one, but they're exactly the same hinge. This one I dipped in acid to take off the zinc coating, and this one I dipped in some material that turns the zinc black, because for this project I wanted black, and this is left over from another project where I wanted it rusty. So we're going to use the two of them anyway, and I'll paint this black at some stage. Now I need to measure the inside of the face frame. I measure on both sides to look it's square, 31, 24.5 and 24.5. Great. I can check my diagonals, 39 and 39, so that's great, it's the right size. Now, 31. If I cut my boards for the door exactly 31, they're going to stick and bind on the face frame. So I want a couple of millimeters space. This is a rustic box. It doesn't have to be so tight fitting door like in a kitchen or something. So, you know, I can leave 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, something like this all the way around. Could leave 5 millimeters and it's quite acceptable on a thing like this. Okay, so cut the boards for the door. 2 millimeters, 2 millimeters, that's 4 millimeters, let's say 5 millimeters shorter than the hole. So if it was 31, I'm going to cut it 30.5. So I'm going to get that done now. Here's the remainder of my material. Hasn't been sanded yet. I'm just going to put it together and see how it looks for a door. I needed 24.5 on 30.5. Also the 24.5 I need to take off the 0.5. So here I've got tons of material. I need all of this. And I have 29, 22. So I'm missing 2 centimeters. Now I have some offcuts from where I ripped the back and the face frame. So I'm going to see what size the rest of my offcuts are. Here's the rest of my offcuts. Let's see if we've got something that matches. Maybe this piece. What have I got now? 24 and a bit, and that's just great. Let's see how that 24 and a bit fits in the hole. More luck than anything that offcut seems to be the right size. Oh, look at that. And can you see I've got a gap here of about 5 mil, and that's what I want because I need to center the door in the middle so that it'll open and close and won't bind on the frame. So that's great. So now I'm going to go and cut all of these to 30.5, and I'm not going to bore you with that. Okay, so I've cut all these pieces to 30.5 for the door, and I used this little offcut to bring them to size, to 24 centimeters for the width. And now I want to put this batten. This gap doesn't really matter, but if you want it to look symmetrical, take a piece of something like this, let's say, and say, okay, that's my spacer. I'm going to put it this far from the top. And seeing as I've got a couple of offcuts this size left over from the face frame, that's exactly what I'm going to use. There's our little door. Let's see how it fits in the hole. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to need to connect the hinges. Now, what side do I want my door to open? What's the top? What's the bottom? Well, if I'm just going to stand up like this, I think this is the way up I'm going to put it, and I think my door is going to open this way. So that means my hinges over here, like this. And I think I'm just going to line it up, the barrel of the hinge, I'm going to line it up here with the corner. So there'll be one hinge here, and the other hinge here. Okay. Now I want to try and keep it straight. So if I have a square somewhere, like this, and just check this part of the hinge is square. I'm going to put the barrel in line with the bottom of my face frame. I'm going to start off with one screw. Because this is only pallet wood, it's very soft. Don't over tighten your screws, they'll rip the wood out and the screw won't hold. Try and be centered if you can, so you don't pull the hinge out of square. These drywall screws really go into the wood very easily. Look at that. The first thing I want is to pick it up a little bit from the bottom so that it doesn't drag on the frame like this. I'm going to need to jam it at the top now. Straighten it up a little bit. Like that. Now I can see I've got a big gap. Here I've got a little gap. So I should take this one out a little bit. Push this one. Oops, the daisy. So this is always the tricky part. Okay, centering this now. It's hard for me looking over that way, so I'm just going to center it. Okay, so now I've centered the door as well as I can. And now I need to put a couple of screws into the hinges to keep it in place. But before I put the screws in, I'm going to mark with a pencil. Oh, and this type of hinge, look, they've got quite a lot of play. So push it down already. Push it down already, and if they look too droopy, that's why I only put one screw here, and then I can always pick it up a little bit if it looks a little bit droopy and not very attractive. That looks fine to me. So I can also pop a screw in there now, so that doesn't move again. And so that hinge is in place as well. Everything looks fine. Okay, so now I need to put some screws in there. And there we have it, our little rustic cupboard. I put a bit of masking tape here for a handle meanwhile. That's how it looks. We're going to need to put some kind of stopper for the door. Just screw a little bit of wood, nail a little bit of wood in here like this. Or somewhere, at the top, at the bottom, doesn't matter. So that when the door closes it doesn't keep going inside, like this. So it's going to need a stopper and it's going to need a handle. You can just use a bit of wood for a handle if you like. Maybe you've got an old handle from something lying around you'd like to use. What have I got in my cupboard? Well, I have a few different things in my cupboard. This one, that's a possibility. It looks a bit big though. And this is just a bit of wood flattened on one side with a hole drilled in it. Looks kind of cool actually. I could quite happily go with that handle. But I'm not going to get into all that now. You can use whatever you like. You can knock a nail and open it with a nail. Okay, like I said, I need to paint these hinges to match But that's the basic idea. I hope you liked the video. I hope it helped you to perhaps imagine what you can build with some simple tools, a hammer, a saw, a square, a tape measure, and look what we did. Okay, well, anything to say, please write it in the comments below. It helps a lot if you subscribe. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all your comments, and thanks ever so much for watching. Bye now.